let's just talk really quickly about the theories that we have. And I'll start because I just have a couple. I have a couple main ones. So I think that again, John Walker as the new Captain America is just such this like maybe polarizing figure. I mean, maybe there are MCU fans that really love him so far, but I think that part of the point of presenting him the way that they have has been to contrast with Steve and to make us want to punch him in the face. Which is why I give him like at least a 20% chance of like having this moment where he seems to be like a decent guy and makes us not want to punch him in the face as much, even though it is a low chance. But I think that there is a decent possibility that he actually gets his hands on one of these serums of super juice that the Flag Smashers have once he follows Sam and Bucky to find them whenever they eventually find him, basically, right? And then he's going to take it, and he's going to, he's going to freak out. He's going to do the wrong thing, and then they have to stop him. So I think there's that possibility. I also think, so when we were talking about John Walker before, here's the thing, here's the prediction that I was thinking of. What if, because this guy in some ways, I mean, he is a really great soldier. I mean, you got to give him that. Like, he's tough, but he's not super juiced. He's not super powered. He's not enhanced with the super soldier serum. So I can foresee a situation where action scene where they're facing off against the Flag Smashers, maybe he blunders in and kind of ruins like the setup that Sam and Bucky have, like whatever it is. But like, what if they like break his neck or something? They just kick him across the room and he breaks his back and he's paralyzed. And so that's when, Sam and Bucky take the shield to finish the fight or whatever happens. Maybe it gets caught on like, the local news station from their helicopter or like whatever. And that's how he ends up with like public support. But like, what if he basically becomes disabled as a result of being a little too big for his britches and trying to take on these super soldiers unwisely, right? Like, what if that happens? And then as a result, he either gets some super soldier serum that gets recovered, or remember, it's been a long time, Bob, but remember the Incredible Hulk and what they did to Tim Roth's character, where they juiced him up, and then they juiced him up again and again and again until he overdid it at the scientist's place and turned into the Abomination. But
right.
like, they still have that stuff, and that was also an outgrowth of the the Captain America Super Soldier program, with Bruce Banner's science sort of in there, right? And so what if they decide to juice him up with that?
I could probably arrange something like that.
And that contributes to him becoming even more unstable, right? But by that time, he doesn't even have the shield anymore, so maybe that's when they dub him U.S. Agent, which is, I think, the moniker that he ends up going by in the comics. Like, especially if he doesn't have the shield anymore, right?
Right.
So I'm just thinking, I mean, it certainly would be simpler if he confronts the Flag Smashers and finds their stash or whatever, and then like injects himself. But what if it's a little bit more complicated than that? Like where he gets disabled, that's how they get the shield, and then they bring him back and they juice him up with this other stuff that like really is going to make him even more unstable. Because I feel like there might be more dramatic weight to that, because they've already demonstrated him going into a narcissistic rage out, right?
Well, yeah, and they showed him sort of fly off the handle and be sort of impulsive. So you almost see him like he's getting whooped, and then looks over and sees the tube there and is like, oh, okay, grabs it and hits himself with it.
I mean, I could see that, but I could also see it being a little more interesting if they give him this other serum that they had given Tim Roth's character way back in The Incredible Hulk, which begs the question even more of, is he unstable? Right.
I think after what happened there, like if he knew that what was happened and he took it anyway, then he's definitely unstable. Like, well, I mean, he took some and turned into that. I want some. I mean,
if he does end up being like disabled in the fight, like his back breaks or he's paralyzed or something, and like they don't have any of the serum for whatever reason, then I see him agreeing to the juice that they, injected in Tim Roth in a heartbeat. In
that situation, I see him agreeing to whatever they've got.
Yeah, exactly. And it could also be a thing where like they fought these super smashers and it didn't turn out all that well. And so they're like, well, we need you back in the field, but this time juiced up, and maybe we're going to juice up somebody else too or something. So I could see something like that happening. Like, what do you think the chances are for something like that versus just he sees the vial and he injects himself?
It depends on how late in the game they wait for that transition to happen. One is very straightforward, can happen in a few seconds. The other would take some development time to brew. So if he was defeated like at the beginning of the next episode, then I'd say they'd have time to work in those plot elements.
Well, if it happens at any point during the next episode 4,
right,
then in episode 5 could be the episode where he gets the serum, recovers, gets his new outfit or whatever back on. And then in the 6th episode, where we're surely going to have our climactic battle between the good guys and the bad guys.
Or he just gets taken out. And then at the very end of the 6th episode, sort of like a post-credit screen, it's like, we have something maybe for you to try. And they leave it hanging there to make him a thorn in someone's side for an upcoming thing.
That could very well be too. That I could easily see that.
Because there always has to be some drama spillover to the next thing.
Yeah, and I can almost guarantee that they're going to have a post-credit scene after the very last episode of the show. I mean, they did it with WandaVision, too,
yeah,
and that's the MCU thing to do, right? So, so that could very well be the post-credit scene for the show. In fact, that would not surprise me whatsoever. But I kind of feel like he's going to be I don't know, maybe he won't be a factor in the final battle, because ultimately I think the story's more about, Sam and Bucky.
Well, they are the title characters.
They are indeed the title characters.
We're going pretty far down the rabbit hole for when they call the show Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's going to, in the end, be about them.
In the end, it will be about the people whose names are in the title.
Yes.
So, okay, so other predictions. What are your other predictions, Bob?
Other than the two opposing predictions about Sharon, those were the biggest predictions I had after watching this episode.
So the predictions about Sharon, just to review, because we talked about it a little bit in our Sharon segment, but basically, you were saying that you foresee two really interesting possibilities, right? On one hand, maybe Sharon is actually undercover for the CIA or SWORD or SHIELD or something like that, and she's trying to get to the power broker. On the other hand, maybe she's actually either working for the power broker or maybe even the power broker herself.
Right.
What did you call it? Captain Roberts style? Like she...
Yeah, the Dread Pirate Roberts from The Princess Bride, where right. it's a moniker handed down from person to person, that it hasn't been the same Dread Pirate Roberts this whole time. Like, right, one person gets sick of doing it, retires, and hands it down to the next person.
Or she ended up killing the power broker and decided just to like take it on. Or I also raised the possibility that, in the comics, I believe the power broker is two people, a man and a woman. Maybe they're brother and sister or something. I'm not familiar with those comics, but maybe she's half of the power broker, right? Maybe
that could be.
Maybe she's one of the two people that constitutes power broker.
Either way, I think her story will be some kind of extreme. They leave too much of a big question mark hanging in the air with, we got a problem, I'll tell you in the car. We got a couple of problems, actually. That
means something.
It means something. And she's very invested. And like you said, she was probably the sniper who saved him.
No, she was definitely the sniper who saved them.
That being the case, she was invested since before it was obvious they needed help. she was following him and keeping an eye on the situation before Sam's phone call made it all go to a sharp left-hand turn.
And if she was connected to the power broker in some way, whether she's looking into the power broker or working with or for or as the power broker, like she would know that these guys are coming to, you know, meet somebody who's like a minion of the power broker.
Yeah.
Right. So that all makes sense. She
has a big part to play.
I think we're definitely going to see Sharon again. And I think she's going to play an important role. I don't know how important. I guess it just kind of depends on whichever way that goes with her, right? So, but I think that at the end of the day, she's still an ally of Sam and Bucky. Now, that would be a huge twist if Sharon turns out to be the power broker and is like, sorry, guys, I'm going to have to be bad now and send my minions after you, or, you know, whatever happens.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but that would be interesting. Now, my other, do you have any other predictions you wanted to share, or was that the big one?
That was it.
I think just on sort of a more micro scale, like smaller, you know, scale prediction, like I think, as we may have mentioned, I think by the end of episode 4, Sam's gonna have the shield, right? Because then that gives him episode 5 to sort of have a couple scenes with it and talk to Bucky about it, like we saw in the trailers, and practice with it. And then episode 6, he's ready to use it, right? So, look, I mean, there's only 6 episodes of this show, so how much time do they have to futz around with him not having the shield, right?
Yeah, that's a plot element I think I've got to get too soon.
Yeah, but I would be surprised if it's the first thing that happens in the episode. I see it more as happening like towards the very end of the episode after, you know, there's some type of conflict and action scene to where they end up taking it away from Walker, right? In all the ways that we explained, we think it might happen.
I kind of see that as like how they top off the episode, like maybe end of the next episode. That's how they end it.
I don't know if it would be like the epilogue, but I feel like it would be sort of at the end of whatever the fight is, and then you have kind of like, you know, an epilogue to the scene, or just like a final scene where you have kind of a resolution to things, and they get to talk, or they introduce the next, you know, cliffhanger. But I think it will be towards the end of the next episode. You're in agreement with me there?
Yeah.
What percentage chance do you give that of happening?
It has to be like 90% at the end of this coming episode.
Yeah, I think it's like I'm gonna say like 95%. Because I think that for the audience, for us as fans, like it's gonna be really satisfying to watch him have it and use it, right? Mm-hmm. Now, that's not to say that his whole ambivalence toward it is going to be resolved. I think that he's not going to work through that until the end of the show, if then. Right? Like, I think the show might still end with, I mean, he might have a greater level of acceptance, but I think it's still going to be something that he struggles with on some level by the end of the show, right? So that's how I feel about that. So, honestly, though, those are the main predictions that I have. I mean, I think, you know, that I predict that it's more likely that they're going to forcibly take the shield away from Walker, or that Walker's not giving it up willingly. And if the closest to willingly giving it up that he's going to get is if like he gets like taken out of the fight in some way, and he's like unconscious or literally disabled or maimed or like something like that, right? That's the closest he's going to get to literally giving it up willingly, in the sense that he'll either be unconscious. Well,
yeah, that's not close at all. Him getting his butt whooped and being out of it isn't willing at all.
Right. But that's the closest to it that I think he's going to get, basically. You know. So there we have it.